Welcome back to Gemstone Kingdom, the place where every stone tells a story buried deeper than time itself. Tonight we uncover 10 sacred gemstones once carried by ancient warriors, stones of courage, fate, and protection, each said to hold the memory of battle and the power of the gods. From blood-red talismans that shielded kings, to a final stone that fell from the sky, forged not by earth, but by the stars. If you feel this might be the beginning of something new, leave a comment saying, "I like this video," so I know you're walking beside me on this journey. Stay until the end, because the number one stone might already be in your hands. And don't forget to subscribe to Gemstone Kingdom, where Earth's oldest secrets are waiting to be found. Before maps, before compasses, before steel and gunpowder, there was a stone that knew where home was. Rank 10, Lodestone, the magnetic heart that guided warriors through chaos. Among the 10 sacred stones carried by warriors into battle, Lodestone stands apart, not for its brilliance, but for its mystery. It was the first mineral on Earth to reveal magnetism, a power invisible yet absolute. To ancient soldiers, it was not science. It was faith that pulled them towards survival. In the time of Alexander the Great, Greek soldiers believed Lodestone carried the breath of ether, the fifth element. They tied small magnetic stones to their belts before campaigns, trusting it to pull them home from the storm. In China, during the Zhou dynasty, generals placed carved lodestones in bronze bowls of water to find direction, the earliest compass. And on the steppes of Mongolia, warriors riding under Genghis Khan sewed tiny shards of lodestone into their horse gear, believing the magnetic pull would guide both man and beast through sandstorms. To hold lodestone is to feel a contradiction, heavy yet restless. It tugs faintly in the hand, as if whispering, "This way." That strange attraction made it a sacred tool of navigation, long before magnetism was understood. In Viking burials, archaeologists found lodestone fragments engraved with runes of victory, symbols for strength and return. They were not placed over the heart, but near the feet, the direction from which the soul begins its journey home. Geologically, lodestone is a naturally magnetized form of magnetite, Fe3O4, created when lightning strikes iron-rich rock. Each bolt realigns atomic fields, turning stone into a compass. In other words, every lodestone begins as chaos, forged in thunder, and ends as direction. No wonder warriors saw it as divine, a gift of order born from destruction. As centuries passed, the lodestone became more than navigation. It became metaphor. Medieval knights wore it under armor to align their courage. Sailors called it the stone that knows. Even today, fragments are found mounted in old astrolabes, relics of an age when men believed Earth itself had a heartbeat. In markets, true lodestone is modest, only a few dollars per gram, but its symbolic worth is unmatched. Collectors of historical relics pay fortunes for authenticated Viking or Chinese compass stones. Because to them, it's not about value, it's about trust. The lodestone never lies. It always points north, no matter who holds it, no matter how lost they are. Perhaps that's why warriors never feared carrying it into battle. It wasn't just a guide, it was a promise that even if they fell, the earth would still remember the way home. If this quiet power surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think guidance comes from within us or from the stones beneath our feet. Because one question remains: when technology forgets the stars, will the Earth's oldest compass still know the way? Long before iron was forged by human hands, it fell from the heavens. Rank 9, Meteorite, the weapon that fell from the sky. For warriors across empires, no metal was holier, no stone more feared. It didn't come from the earth, it came to it. When a meteor blazed across the ancient sky and shattered upon the sand, people believed the gods had thrown down their weapons. And from those celestial ruins, humankind built its first blades. In ancient Egypt, black fragments of meteorite iron were carved into ceremonial daggers. Archaeologists found one such blade in the tomb of Tutankhamun, forged from nickel iron that had fallen from the stars. To the Egyptians, that was no coincidence. They called it iron from heaven, a gift that only kings, in the gods they served, could wield. Thousands of miles east, the same belief took root in the steppes of Mongolia. When Genghis Khan united the tribes, his armorers forged sacred blades from sky iron, meteorite metal that cut through ordinary steel. It wasn't superstition, it was metallurgy ahead of its time. Iron-nickel meteorites contain a lattice so stable that, when polished, they reveal the Widmanstätten pattern. Crystalline lines formed over billions of years of cosmic cooling. Each one is a fingerprint of the universe, proof that the weapon was born before the earth itself. In Japan, samurai masters whispered of Hoshitetsu, or star metal, a rare substance said to grant the soul of the heavens to any blade it touched. Swords made from meteorite were treated not as tools, but as living spirits. Some were buried with their owners, others, legend says, vanished after battle, as if recalled by the sky that birthed them. Geologically, meteorites are fragments of planetary cores, pure iron, cobalt, and nickel, crystallized under cosmic pressure. When they strike the Earth, they transfer both energy and mythology. To the ancient mind, that was destiny made visible. Even in Norse sagas, warriors swore oaths upon stones that fell with fire. To swear on a meteorite was to invoke the wrath of the heavens if one lied. In other words, it was the first celestial contract. Modern collectors still chase these fragments. A slice of Gibeon meteorite from Namibia can cost $20 to $40 per gram, but entire blades crafted from it, polished to reveal that galactic grid, sell for over $50,000. Not because of weight, but because of meaning. Owning one is like holding a piece of time older than history. To the warrior, meteorite wasn't decoration. It was reassurance that no matter how fierce the battle, the stars themselves were watching, that when their blade met the enemy, it wasn't iron against flesh. It was heaven reclaiming what it once gave. If this story of starlight and steel surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you believe power comes from the earth or from the sky. Because one question remains. When the last warrior lays down his weapon, will the heavens forge another? Or are they waiting for us to return theirs? They called it the eye that never sleeps, a stone that watched the battlefield as if the gods themselves were keeping score. Rank 8, Tiger's Eye, the watchful stone of victory. To the untrained eye, Tiger's Eye looks like polished bronze, but under sunlight it comes alive, a flash of gold sweeping across its surface like a blink. That optical illusion, known as chatoyancy, made ancient warriors believe the stone could see even when they could not. It was their guardian against ambush, their unseen scout. In the deserts of North Africa, soldiers of Carthage carried Tiger's Eye sewn into leather amulets. They believed it let them sense danger before it struck. Farther east in Rome, generals placed the stone on their signet rings, invoking the gaze of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. And in India, Rajput warriors bound it to the hilts of sabers, saying it allowed them to read their enemy's fear before the first blow. Geologically, Tiger's Eye is a member of the quartz family, but its soul is older, born from crocidolite asbestos, slowly replaced by silica and iron oxide. Each golden band is a fossilized echo of that transformation, stone remembering movement. Its shimmer isn't magic. It's the memory of fibers that once swayed like grass beneath prehistoric winds. Perhaps that's why soldiers said it was alive. Every glint across its surface looked like breath, calm, rhythmic, watching. Archaeologists in modern Tunisia have uncovered burial sites where Tiger's Eye beads were laid over the eyes of the dead. Protection for the soul's journey so it would not be deceived by illusions. In Norse sagas, merchants traded for it, calling it the cat's sunstone, a charm to resist spells of confusion. Different continents, same belief. Clarity is victory. When cut and polished, high-grade Tiger's Eye mirrors fire itself. No other gem blends warmth and discipline so perfectly. In the gem market, fine golden brown specimens can reach $100 to $300 per carat, while rare blue hawk's eye varieties command far more. But collectors know its true value was never in price. It was in perception. You wore it not to impress the living, but to keep sight of what was real. Modern soldiers, climbers, even athletes still wear it. Not for superstition, but for focus. Because the battlefield has changed, but distraction remains the same enemy. If this vigilant stone surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think protection comes from the eye that sees or the heart that refuses to blink. Because one question remains: when the dust of every war finally settles, will the last victory belong to strength or to awareness? Before battle, soldiers painted their skin red, not with pigment, but with stone. Rank 7, hematite, the blood and iron of the gods. In the language of ancient Rome, its name meant exactly what it was: haima, blood. Because when polished, this metallic stone gleamed like steel, but when ground into powder, it bled a dark, rusty crimson. To warriors, that wasn't coincidence. It was prophecy. Hematite wasn't worn for beauty. It was carried as a pact, a promise that blood spilled in war would not be wasted. In ancient Mesopotamia, soldiers rubbed crushed hematite onto their shields before marching, believing it turned them invisible to death. In Rome, gladiators wore it as amulets bound in leather. Legends said Mars, god of war, had veins that flowed not with blood, but with molten hematite, and every piece found on Earth was a fragment of his body. Archaeologists excavating Roman camps in Britain discovered hematite beads buried with fallen centurions. Traces of iron oxide still stain the soil red after nearly 2,000 years, as if the earth itself had remembered their sacrifice. To those who fought, the stone's dual nature, bright as armor, red as blood, mirrored the truth of war, that life and death, courage and destruction are made of the same material. Geologically, hematite is pure iron oxide, Fe2O3, one of the most abundant minerals in the crust, but only certain veins form the metallic variety used as talisman. Its magnetic alignment under heat gives it that mirror-like surface, a property that made early soldiers polish it into mirrors before combat. They believed the reflection captured the soul's steadiness. "See your eyes before battle," Roman commanders would say. "If they waver, the gods will look away." Across cultures, the symbolism endures. The Maori of New Zealand carved hematite into spirit stones, representing ancestral bloodlines. In West Africa, warriors dusted it onto spears to feed the blade with courage. And in medieval Europe, alchemists called it the Stone of Mars, using it in rituals to transmute fear into willpower. Even today, hematite remains a soldier's stone, its weight grounding, its sheen unbreakable. Jewelry markets list it modestly, at $10 to $50 per carat, but collectors of ancient relics pay far more for artifacts that still bear that signature red, because every grain of hematite tells the same story. To fight is to stain the earth, and to survive is to carry that stain with honor. If this gem's history of blood and resilience surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think strength comes from steel or from what stains it, because one question remains: when the gods of war fall silent, will the earth still remember the color of courage? There is a saying carved into the ruins of an ancient fortress in Anatolia: courage needs armor not only of iron, but of stone. Rank 6, jasper, the stone that shielded the brave. For nearly 4,000 years, jasper has been the quiet companion of soldiers and kings. Not radiant like ruby, not flawless like diamond, yet it has appeared in more warrior burials than any other gem, because jasper was not meant to impress. It was meant to endure. In ancient Egypt, Pharaoh's guards carried amulets of red jasper engraved with the eye of Horus. They believed the stone absorbed wounds before they reached the flesh. Across the Aegean, Spartan mothers placed jasper discs in the hands of sons departing for war, whispering, "Let this be your second heart." To them, the gem's deep red wasn't color, it was oath. It symbolized blood already given to the land. Archaeologists have unearthed fragments of jasper set into bronze breastplates near Troy and Crete. When polished, it gleams like still embers. When broken, it dulls to brown, as if it chooses peace once the battle ends. Roman naturalists later called it the stone of endurance. They believed generals who wore it could fight through exhaustion and fear, untouched by despair. Geologically, jasper is a microcrystalline quartz colored by iron and clay, a chaotic mix that forms order under pressure. Each pattern, each streak of red or green, records the turbulence of its birth. Lava cooling beside river clay, stone learning to hold chaos within. Perhaps that is why warriors trusted it. They saw themselves mirrored in it, chaos hardened into purpose. During the Crusades, European knights carved jasper into crosses they carried against their hearts. Medieval texts claim the stone could staunch bleeding when placed upon the wound. Whether that was alchemy or faith no longer matters. What matters is this: the belief gave them courage, and courage has always been the oldest form of armor. Today, jasper is easy to find, sold in markets, worn as jewelry, but among collectors, relic jasper carved for battle commands extraordinary reverence. An inscribed Spartan talisman once sold for $18,000 at auction. A small oval no larger than a thumbprint, its surface worn smooth by time and prayer. In every age, this stone has kept one secret. It does not protect from harm, it protects from forgetting what must be faced. To carry jasper was to remember who you were before the fear began. If this silent guardian surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think true protection comes from armor or from the will inside it. Because one question remains: when the battlefield has long turned to dust, will courage itself still leave a trace, perhaps hidden in stone? In every army, there are soldiers who fight loudly, and others who never speak, but never fall. Their silence was not weakness, it was focus, and their symbol was black. Rank 5, Onyx, the shadow stone of the silent warrior. In the mythology of war, onyx was the stone of discipline, forged not from fire but from restraint. Where ruby screamed of courage and garnet burned with rage, onyx whispered of composure, the calm before the strike. The ancient Assyrians believed that warriors who wore onyx on their belts could resist fear itself. When terror gripped the battlefield, the stone absorbed it. To them, its deep black was not darkness, it was containment, a vessel for every emotion a soldier could not afford to feel. In ancient Greece, the name onyx meant fingernail. Legend says that Eros, the god of desire, clipped the nails of Venus as she slept, and when they fell to the ground, they turned into black stone. Proof that even beauty must learn endurance. That paradox made it sacred to both warriors and priests, a reminder that power lies in mastery of the self. Roman generals engraved onyx with images of Mars, the god of war, but wore the engraving inward, against the skin, not for show. Because onyx was not meant to be seen, it was meant to be felt. Archaeologists excavating Byzantine battlefields found onyx seals buried with officers, often cracked clean in two, as if the stone had taken the impact meant for its owner. Modern analysis confirms that onyx fractures along delicate fibrous bands of silica, absorbing pressure before breaking, a material metaphor for sacrifice. Under the microscope, onyx reveals thin parallel layers, white, gray, and black. The geological record of stillness interrupted by chaos, then healed again. That rhythm mirrors the heart of every soldier. Beat, pause, strike, survive. In feudal Japan, samurai referred to it as the listening stone. They wore it not as decoration, but as meditation. Believing its silence trained them to hear danger before it arrived. The finest pieces were cut into prayer beads, passed from master to apprentice before battle. Today, onyx remains common in jewelry, but in ancient form, engraved, consecrated, or fractured in war, its relics are priceless. Museum-grade rings from the Roman campaigns have sold for $25,000 to $30,000, not because of size or shine, but because they once anchored the minds of men who refused to tremble. If this stone's quiet power surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think strength comes from the noise of war or from the silence before it. Because one question remains: when the echoes of battle fade, will victory belong to those who shouted or to those who never needed to? Among all the stones carried into war, one didn't promise strength or luck. It promised something rarer: clarity. Rank 4, Bronzite, the mirror that reflected fear. In the chronicles of the ancient Greeks, bronzite was called the stone of command. It didn't belong to the frontline soldier, but to those who led them, to men whose voices could send thousands forward and whose doubts could end a campaign. They said bronzite taught one thing above all others: the discipline of calm. When polished, bronzite shines like aged bronze, deep brown, threaded with golden light. But under that surface lies a strange secret. When struck by flame, it reflects the image of the one holding it. Not perfectly, but distorted, trembling. That reflection terrified the unready. It was said that if you looked into bronzite and saw your fear, you were not fit to command. Legends from Sparta tell of generals who carried small bronzite discs in leather pouches. Before every campaign, they would gaze into them in silence. If their reflection held steady, the army marched. If it wavered, the day was postponed. Whether that was ritual or strategy hardly matters. It worked. And over centuries, bronzite became the emblem of emotional armor, the unseen shield against panic. Geologically, bronzite is a magnesium iron silicate born from metamorphic fire. It forms deep within the Earth's mantle, where pressure reshapes the crystalline structure of olivine. That same internal restructuring gives it a silky metallic luster, a natural mirror born from tension. In a sense, bronzite is forged exactly like the leaders who wore it, tested, compressed, yet unbroken. In Roman times, senators and commanders used it for cameos and seals, believing its glow warded off confusion in debate and ambush alike. Medieval texts describe it as the stone of equanimity. Alchemists placed it near furnaces to keep apprentices from succumbing to fear of fire. And in the Ottoman Empire, elite cavalrymen bound bronzite talismans to their wrists, believing it would turn away the evil eye of hesitation. In battle, bronzite was rarely seen. It wasn't meant to dazzle. It was meant to steady, to remind its bearer that leadership demands reflection, not reaction. Today, gem collectors prize fine bronzite for its warm bronze sheen, a soft metallic shimmer like old armor catching candlelight. High-quality cabochons can reach $100 to $200 per carat, but the true relics, those unearthed from battlefields, altars, and tombs, are beyond price. Because they are more than stones, they are testaments to self-mastery. Across time, one truth never changed. Bronzite doesn't banish fear. It shows it, clearly, mercilessly, until you recognize it as your own reflection. And that, to a warrior, was liberation. If this forgotten commander's stone surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think bravery means feeling no fear or leading despite it. Because one question remains: when history remembers victory, does it honor the sword that struck first or the hand that never trembled? There are stones of protection, stones of faith, and then there are stones of loyalty, the kind you bleed for. Rank 3. Garnet, the heartstone of blood and brotherhood. For millennia, warriors across civilizations carried garnet not as jewelry, but as a bond, a silent promise between comrades. If I fall, you will remember me. Its color, deep crimson to wine red, mirrored the lifeblood of war itself. To hold it was to carry a fragment of that truth. In ancient Persia, soldiers sewed garnets into their tunics before battle. They believed the stone would turn aside arrows and bring them home unpierced. Across Rome, centurions embedded it into their armor, calling it carbunculus, the burning coal, a spark of divine endurance. When light struck its surface, it shimmered like embers, reminding soldiers that even when all fires died, one would still burn within. But nowhere did garnet hold deeper meaning than in the north. Among the Vikings, it was not merely a stone, it was blood itself. Warriors were buried with garnet beads pressed into their wounds, to guide their souls to Valhalla through rivers of red light. Those left behind wore twin stones, one for the living, one for the dead, a pact of remembrance that death could not break. To fight beside a comrade wearing your garnet was to share the same pulse. Geologically, garnet forms under intense metamorphic pressure. Limestone reborn through heat and stress into something unbreakable. That's why it became a metaphor for brotherhood. Strength not born from peace, but from surviving the same fire. Its atomic lattice traps light in every direction, giving it a glow that seems to come from within. a reminder that courage does not shine. It glows quietly beneath the skin. In medieval Europe, crusaders carried garnet as a symbol of Christ's sacrifice, believing the stone would light their way home through blood and darkness. Knights engraved it with crosses, family crests, or the words fortis anima, brave soul. It wasn't glamour, it was gravity. Every nick on the gem marked a vow kept. Even today, soldiers and veterans wear garnet for the same reason. Not to summon luck, but to remember who they stood beside. Modern markets value fine garnet at only $100 to $300 per carat. But the stones with stories, heirlooms, battlefield relics, or Viking burials are considered priceless. Because their value isn't carat, it's connection. To historians, garnet is proof that courage was never solitary. It was shared. A single spark passed from heart to heart, generation after generation, until red became the color not just of battle, but of belonging. If this bond of blood and brotherhood surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think loyalty is born in battle or proven by it. Because one question remains. When the war is over, what still binds men together? The fight or the memory of who they fought beside? Every army has its weapon, but every warrior needs fire. Not the kind that burns, the kind that keeps burning. Rank 2, carnelian, the flame that fed courage. In tombs older than language, this stone glows beneath sand. Warm, red-orange, pulsing like a heart still alive. For the ancient Egyptians, carnelian was the stone of vitality, the blood of Isis, worn by soldiers marching under the desert sun. They carved it into scarabs and amulets, believing its color could summon the life force of the gods themselves. Before battle, priests would touch the stone to the chest of each warrior and whisper, "May your fear turn to flame." But it wasn't only Egypt. In Mesopotamia, carnelian sealed royal decrees, its surface engraved with lions and suns, emblems of strength. To carry it was to carry authority, and to lose it was to lose command. Even Roman centurions fastened carnelian rings to their fingers, not for ornament, but to remind themselves of control. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to walk through it anyway. When held to light, carnelian glows like living fire. Geologically, it's a variety of chalcedony, colored by iron oxide, the same element that gives blood its hue. That connection between iron, blood, and endurance made the stone sacred to blacksmiths and warriors alike. In every strike of the hammer, they saw the same transformation: heat into purpose, chaos into will. Archaeologists excavating Ur and Thebes have uncovered rows of carnelian beads buried on the right side of the body, the side that bore the sword. In life, it steadied the hand. In death, it guided the spirit home. To them, courage was not just survival, it was alignment between flesh, heart, and flame. Medieval texts later called it the blood of the brave. During the Crusades, knights carried carnelian crosses over their armor, believing it shielded them from cowardice and confusion. In Persia, prophets and poets alike wore it engraved with verses, "He who holds fire need not fear the dark." Even today, carnelian endures as the stone of performers, soldiers, and leaders. Anyone who must stand firm before the world's gaze. Its price is modest, $50 to $300 per carat, but its legacy is immeasurable, because no gem better captures the essence of human defiance, to keep burning even when the wind howls. Under magnification, tiny fractures run through each stone, microscopic scars of its volcanic birth. And yet those scars are what give it brilliance. Perhaps that is its greatest lesson, that courage is not perfection, but persistence shining through damage. If this ancient flame surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think bravery is born in the heart or forged in the fire that tests it. Because one question remains: when all weapons fail and the night grows long, what will you hold on to? Steel, or the fire that once kept heroes warm? Long before man mastered metal, the heavens did. Rank 1, meteorite iron, the sword of heaven. Every culture that ever looked up at a falling star believed the same thing. The gods were speaking in fire, but a few realized the message wasn't light, it was metal. Fragments of the cosmos that survived entry, cooled in flame, and landed on Earth like a divine signature. To touch one was to hold the oldest weapon the universe ever forged. The earliest known blade carved from sky iron lies in the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Modern spectroscopy confirms what legend whispered for millennia. Its composition of iron, nickel, and cobalt could only have come from a meteorite. To the Egyptians, that dagger wasn't a tool. It was proof that a king ruled by celestial right. Centuries later, on the Asian steppes, blacksmiths of the Mongol horde hunted the same metal. They called it Tengri's gift. Swords made from it were said to cut through armor that mortal steel could not dent. And when those weapons struck, witnesses claimed sparks that glowed blue, the color of heaven's own flame. In Japan, master swordsmiths forged sky iron into ritual blades known as hoshitetsu. They believed each meteorite carried a trapped spirit, and that tempering it with water would tame the sky. Such blades were kept for emperors and shrines, never wore, because to draw them was to risk awakening the heavens themselves. Geologically, meteorite iron is the product of planetary birth and death. Inside the vacuum of space, molten cores cool for billions of years, creating crystalline grids known as the Wittgenstein pattern, a fingerprint of the cosmos. Every etched line records cosmic time, every reflection a pulse from before Earth existed. That's why ancient warriors considered it sacred. To carry such a metal was to carry memory older than humanity. By the Iron Age, smiths across Persia, Siberia, and Arabia were forging meteorite talismans, not for battle, but for destiny. Each was engraved with symbols of stars and comets, then wrapped in cloth dyed red for blood and black for night. In their minds, whoever bore such a charm could never be lost. The sky itself would guide his blade home. Today, fragments of the great Gibeon meteorite of Namibia sell for $30,000 to $50,000 per kilogram, while complete celestial swords fetch prices that can exceed $500,000. And yet, even at that cost, you're not buying metal. You're buying eternity made solid. Scientists call it an alloy. Warriors called it a covenant. Every atom inside a meteorite blade has seen supernovas die, galaxies turn, and time collapse upon itself. And still it endures. Perhaps that's why, in every legend, the hero's weapon never rusts, because it never belonged to Earth in the first place. If this story of heavenly steel surprised you, leave a comment below. Tell me whether you think true power is forged by man or by the stars, because one question remains. When the next sword falls from the sky, will we raise it in reverence or repeat the same wars it once ended? And that was our journey through the 10 sacred stones once carried by ancient warriors. Each gem, from the fiery carnelian to the celestial meteorite iron, reminds us that courage, faith, and destiny were once carved not in words, but in stone. If you've stayed with us until now, thank you. Your time, curiosity, and passion keep this kingdom alive. I wish you health, peace, and strength on your own journey, because just like the warriors before us, we all carry our own stones of endurance. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Gemstone Kingdom so we have the motivation to bring you more hidden stories from the heart of the earth. Until next time, take care of yourself, and may the stones of the past light your path ahead.